Margaret's
But this was, and we'd been there to visit her one other time.
She's stuck in the bathroom.
It's been a couple of years ago and everything.
Guys,
This is not right. They sent me a corrected.
We're going to call the meeting to order, and we're waiting for a couple of aldermen to come in. And here they come. Then back.
Okay.
We're waiting on Martin.
Yes.
So if we could all stand for the invocation. We're honored tonight to have Minister Nancy Boffman, who is the wife of one of our city employees, to offer the invocation. And then follow that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Well, Father God, thank you so much for assembling these beautiful leaders to this position. And Father, I pray for wisdom for them tonight. And government was your idea, and I love the way they follow through. Bless them and give them peace. Father, you say in all things acknowledge you and not lean on our own understanding, but you'll make the path straight. So I'm asking for a straight path for them tonight, that all things will come together well so that this community can live in peace and harmony. So, Father, bless them, bless their families. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Item 4 on the agenda is grievance or statements from citizens that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone that wants to approach the podium at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 5, communication for Williamson County Mayor and Williamson County Commission. I see no one, so we will continue to move on. Approval of minutes, I would ask for a motion to defer the minutes till the next regularly scheduled board meeting on April 12th.
So move.
Second.
Motion, appropriate second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Passes unanimously. Next are recognitions. I'm glad to announce that this is Purchasing Month in the City of Franklin, and urge all citizens and employees of the city to join me in support and appreciation for the purchasing profession and all that they do in helping Franklin remain a physically sound city. And then I have 2 other recognitions. First, Pinkerton Park was voted the best public park in Franklin. And then second, the downtown Franklin Square was voted the best tourist attraction. Now the part that everyone has been breathlessly waiting for is the moment we call Skinner Report. And I'm not going to recognize you yet, Alderman Skinner.
Okay.
I'm going to make my own announcement tonight. I'm going to change this up a little bit. April 27th will be the State of the City address. It will be at Liberty Hall at the Factory. It'll start at 7 a.m. It is free to the public. There is a free light breakfast. We'll also have departments displaying some of their activities in the room after the social hour and the meet and greet and the breakfast and looking at what we're doing. At 7:45, we'll promptly start with a multimedia presentation and interesting talk from me. I know it's like the Skinner Report. You just can't wait. And it's going to center on the spirit of Franklin, and it's going to coincide with the anniversary of the flood. So I invite everyone that's listening tonight to come. Of course, everybody that's in the audience, and I will try to remember to recognize the alderman that morning. So, okay, next, Alderman Bransford.
Really, you're not going to let him go?
I know he'll be long-winded.
It's my pleasure I have guests in the audience tonight. I have 3 outstanding Centennial High School students that is here tonight to see the democratic process in play here. I'm just going to ask them to stand, if you don't mind standing. I think I was expecting 4, but I have 2 here. Just shout out your name right quick. I'm not sure which one showed up.
Javarius Harris.
Javarius Harris. Okay. Junior or senior at Centennial High School?
I'm a senior.
Okay, come right on in. Okay, and next?
Harris Johnson.
Okay, and this young lady must be adding on. These are students that I'm working with over at the Centennial High School, and they was gracious enough to give up their evening to come and be a part. Just want to welcome them. Young lady, what's your name? Okay, welcome and enjoy our
Now, that moment we all been waiting for. Alderman Skinner.
The roundtable this month, in April, Sunday, the 10th, at 3 o'clock, will be a panel discussion about General Hood and his decisions that were made prior to the Battle of Franklin. And we're also honored to have a relative of his, Mr. Sam Hood, that I think is a great grandson. So this should be a very interesting discussion. It's at the Williamson County Library, second Sunday of April at 3 o'clock. So it's a free event, and the roundtable is the educational wing of the Franklin's Charge. So y'all come.
Thank you.
That's all.
We'll next move on to the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are deemed to be non-controversial and routine in nature by the governing body. This will be items 18 through 33. Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
I want to pull one.
Alderman Skinner.
Wait a minute, I've just rearranged things.
Yep.
Nope. It's
Carried away with your announcement.
I know, I got reshuffled here.
What's your agenda?
Here. Item 21.
Any other items to be pulled?
There's,
Yes. Well, item 25. So is there a motion to approve with the exceptions noted?
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposition? So we will now move on to item number 10. Consideration of contract award to Cheryl Morgan of Covington, Kentucky in the total amount of $30,000 for the initial 12-month term of service year for group employee insurance benefits, consulting services for the Human Resources Department with options to extend the terms of service for up to a maximum of 2 additional one-year terms. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second. Any discussion?
This did come before Budget and Finance, and it was 3-0 in favor.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Seeing none, passes unanimously.
I'm voting against it.
I'm sorry, I didn't recognize. Alderman Berger voted against. Next is new business, consideration of ordinance 2011-07, an ordinance to update the City of Franklin road impact fees as presented in the 2010 Duncan Associates road impact fee study dated November 2010. Is there a motion?
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? Alderman Peterson?
You know, I have spoken about the concern of including the arterial collector, arterial right-of-way in this, because this does basically on many of the fees, it doubles from what it is now. Whereas if we go with this without right-of-way, it would bring up the amount that we show on the first step. I would like to move that we implement the part that states first step for the next 3 years.
Is that an amendment?
Is that an
Yes, I
amendment?
said
Okay.
I'd like to make the amendment.
And restate your amendment, if you
Let me
would.
see if I can.
Yeah, in a little clearer terms.
That
Ann,
we,
could you explain that a little bit
Okay.
before you make the amendment again?
okay.
I want to be a little
All
bit
right,
more clear on
let me
it.
see if I can explain a little bit before I
Right.
make it, and then I may need some help with the making. If you look at the amount that is shown here, it goes into 3 steps. One of them was virtually the same amount that we would increase this without the right-of-way included.
Right, yep.
The other 2 steps, whenever those are implemented, that would actually double the road impact fees that we are charging now. That's not exactly right, but it would increase them by about 100%. And so if we remove the inclusion of right-of-way, then the fees would be what is shown on the first step here. Let me see, and
Are you just removing on, right away on arterials?
Right, including the fee, including the amounts for right-of-ways on arterials. And that is what is shown on our table, and I'm sorry, I did not look at that specifically to see what table it was on.
Arterial only.
Arterial only, thank you.
Yeah, arterial.
Okay,
Table 19.
Table 19.
Yeah.
Is that forever and ever and ever?
No, I said for 3 years.
Okay, is everyone clear on the motion?
well, let me see.
To remove
My
the
my
right-of-way
amendment-
acquisition for 3 years from the road impact fees on arterials? Is that saying it simply?
On arterials only?
Well, that's the only thing that they have included in here.
Right.
Yeah.
They've been
So we
only
would
included.
take off for 3 years that additional fee for right-of-ways for arterials.
Well, if you look at your Table
Yeah.
19, thank you, Alderman, for showing me that. On Table 19, if you would look, then the current fee, for example, for single-family detached,
Right.
which is, it currently is now $2,191. If you just add the increased cost for, I guess, construction, it would go up to $2,717. That would be an increase of 24%. But if you add the rest of this here, it would go up, help me, Pearl,
Okay,
again.
so in 3 years, let's just talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
What will happen?
Then we review again.
Okay.
Then we review again, and we could,
So that's not a drop-dead date on the inclusion of arterials. We would then review...
review it, yes.
Review what?
Your road impact fee.
The road impact fees
road
all over
impact
again.
fees and
All over
everything.
We
again.
do that
Years
every, how many years do we do that?
And generally, we have been doing it, we have been doing it every 3 to 5 years
Yeah.
for the last few years. I know there was some mention at one of the committee meetings that there was one time whenever, and I looked back, they had not changed the road impact fees for 10 years, and so they did bring them back into compliance by doing, I think, was it 3 steps or maybe 5 steps? It was by steps, okay. But that was because they hadn't reviewed them for 10 years. But now, I believe that we passed this maybe 3 years ago. In other words, we had made an update 3 years ago.
Let's go ahead. Is there a second
I will go
to
ahead and
that motion?
I will second the Alderman motion.
Now open for discussion. Alderman
I
Martin.
want to know, is this staff recommendation option 3?
Option 3 from the memo,
Yes.
yes.
that is your recommendation?
The ordinance as written right now is the recommendation coming from staff, yes.
Right.
As presented to you.
That would be option 3.
It's option 3, it's arterials with cost of right-of-way included.
And Alderman Peterson's motion is to remove the right-of-way acquisitions from that number. From right-of-way, you got me speaking in tongues. Remove the cost of the right-of-way acquisition on arterials from recommendation option 3,
Only arterials.
only arterials.
No?
No, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
okay,
right.
okay.
But that's the
Let's
only
make sure
one we're under
we're clear.
consideration.
We're clear
Is that
that you're only-
clarified, Alderman?
Well,
It's not really their, it's not their recommendation,
It's not their recommendation.
as Alderman Peterson has just made the motion. She's wanting to remove something from staff's
and
recommendation.
give it 3 years.
That's right, that's right. In other words, just increase, now, I'm looking only at the single family, but I would be talking about maybe a 25%, I'm talking about 24% increase, and again, I'm just talking about for single family, but all of those numbers there would be the ones, as I say, I'm just using as an illustration, single family.
I think what I want to know is what staff thinks about that.
What staff thinks about the amendment?
The amendment.
Well, as I said, we've recommended with the cost of right-of-way because the cost of right-of-way is tremendous. And we're not getting that funding to be able, through the impact fees, we're not getting it, that monies to be able to buy the right-of-way. So we're having to put a lot of money into right-of-way cost that's not coming in through the impact fee.
That's what.
Any other
Can we have discussion?
I thought we were.
Well, okay, good, good.
I'm going to ask if anybody else wants to
Sure.
speak, because you've spoken a good deal on it already. Alderman Skinner.
Okay, so everything would go into effect, except you're saying not to put in the right-of-way, not to include right-of-way for 3 years.
And so what that would do is, see, the way it's set up here, they would have the, and again, please, I understand, I'm only using this example of single family, it would only increase by 24%. Then, as a part of their recommendation, they have for the 2 years after that, it would go up another, 40% each time?
Well, what the chart that we have included, let me make sure I get the right number. Exhibit B, what we did is we took the change for each particular land use type, the change in what the impact fee would be based on arterials with the cost of right-of-way included. We took 25% of that change for the first jump. Then we took 40% of the change for the second jump, and then the remainder is the third jump. So it's 25% of the change, not of the original impact fee, but 25% of the change based on those numbers, yes.
But is,
Yes.
could I ask a question then? Is that, how much is that, whenever you're saying it's not 25% of the road impact fee, it is, though, it is approximately 25%.
It's about 25%.
That's right.
It's almost 24% of the change for a single-family unit. But you'll notice that with the 25% of the change is $2,700 versus 24% of the impact fee charge is $2,717. So that's the reason we chose the 25% for the first jump, was it hit that, close to that number. And that was after discussions with this body concerning that, of a place to do a jump, to have steps into the, getting into this.
But what will the,
Were you through, Alderman? Okay.
okay, I just have another question, follow up on that, and then I would like to make a comment. So, using the single-family residential as an example, at the end of 3 years, what would be the percentage change from what it is now until, to what it would be under your recommendation 3 years from now?
If you included right-of-way for arterials for the single-family unit, as it shows in Table 9,
Say it.
or 19, I'm sorry, your percentage change to get to the total of what's recommended by us is a 93% increase.
That is what I'm talking about whenever I say it would virtually double what we are charging right now.
For the next 3 years.
At the end of the next 3 years, we would
yeah.
be charging 93% more than we are charging today.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And that is the thing I have a concern about.
I do too. I do.
Alderman Barnhill.
Well, we either build and pay for roads, or we don't build and pay for roads. And, you know, I understand that we're looking at 93% increase versus 24%. But at some point in time, every argument that we've had and every discussion that we've had here has been that we have not been able to support our CIP program. We have not been able to support our road building program. And when we look at something like this, somebody is going to have to pay for that if we don't do the $1,500. And that's not, and it won't be the new person that's coming in, it will be the person that's existing now that will pick up the difference in that. The 93% over a 3-year period of time seems like a great deal. It is a great deal, I guess. It is $1,500 over a 3-year period of time on a single-family unit, as the example that Alderman Peterson is using. I simply do, you know, I'm sympathetic towards the 93% increase. I suspect I'm slightly more sympathetic to the people that are already here that are going to pay the difference if we don't do some of these changes, and the fact that it's $1,500 on a single-family unit over a period of 3 years is going to cause me not to be able to support the amendment.
Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Is everybody clear on?
Wait.
Could I
Is everybody clear on the motion first?
Yeah.
Could I say one other thing? In looking at the arterials that we would purchase right away on, many of them are state-supported roads, Highway 96 East and West, Columbia Avenue, Hillsborough, Franklin Road, Matt Catcher. All of those are roads that really the state pays for. The only arterials that I came up with that the city would be bearing the burden on would be Carruthers, Cool Springs Boulevard, and McEwen. And so whenever you think about the arterials, I think most of them would be state-funded and not city-funded. So that was another reason, because this is only the right-of-way on arterials.
I'm sorry, but I have to correct that just a little bit.
Thank you. Tell me more.
We're spending approximately $4 million for right-of-way for McCatcher.
Yes.
City funds.
Yeah.
The Hillsborough Road project is mostly City of Franklin funding. It is not, it's very, in fact, the funding for Hillsborough Road, the entire portion of Hillsborough Road, we got $1.25 million for TDOT for the roadway, and then we have an enhancement grant of $625,000. So that won't go very far. But anyway, that's two examples there that were mentioned that we are spending funds for right-of-way easement acquisitions.
Even though we're not for much of that, like on Columbia Avenue for sure, but also on some of this other, we are not increasing the traffic capacity
right now
for big parts of it.
You talk Columbia Avenue for what we've already done. You talking about?
Yep.
We paid for all that.
I know, but I'm saying we are not increasing the traffic capacity on that, and for much of Hillsborough, we're not.
Yeah. True.
Alderman Byrd.
Ann, I got a question for you on which roads that you mentioned, Carruthers, McEwen, what else? There was one other,
Cool Springs.
Cool Springs.
I don't know that we're planning to do anything on Cool Springs.
I don't think there's going to be
But that was,
anything over there except that one
yeah.
turn lane that we're doing.
Those are the ones that I identified as arterials, and I'm sure that's not everything.
So basically, if we vote for this amendment, then we're going to lose those funds for Carruthers and McEwen for new development.
Well, the thing is, though, that if...
That is correct.
Yeah, and we're
okay.
going to end up having to put that back in the taxpayers. I totally sympathize with this because I'm not really into this in this economy, but I'm not sure I can agree to this for 3 years. Maybe this year, absolutely, but I can't either. I just can't bring myself to. I'm thinking, I like your amendment. I would like to support it, but I can't bring myself to support it because these roads, and of course I represent that ward, are really critical to move those ahead, and that would bring the cost back to the citizens that live here already. And I think it may be better to not support the amendment at this time. I can't do it for 3 years.
Alderman Branchford.
Mr. Mayor, I think one of the things that Alderman Peterson was thinking here was the single-family homes. This is where this cost was going to be attached to. So I think she was really concerned, and I mean, that's kind of where the individual person, okay, would have to bear this cost.
And another, there is not probably going to be any single-family homes on Carruthers or McEwen.
Right.
Well, it would be from everywhere,
Right,
single family
exactly.
anywhere. As I say, I'm concerned about this. I'll be interested to see if anyone comes next time. I believe it will be the public hearing. And there may be, as there have been before at some other meetings we've had, people stating concerns. I haven't said anything about what I consider to be, I guess, a market advantage, where somebody will pay for this. I guess it would be either the developer, home builders really are the ones that pay the impact fees and pass on to the homeowner. But
We would pay it.
but has been stated, though, we are, even though, whenever we consider how much more it costs to have more people here, but the thing is, though, that there have been other areas that have been competitive with us that don't have road impact fees of this.
Yeah.
And I have no idea, like, what some others do, but I'm sure of that.
One more thing. I'm not going to vote for this amendment tonight, but we have a public hearing
Yes.
next time. So I'm not going to vote for the amendment right now, but I want to hear more, and I'm also going to be talking to people before we get to the second reading.
Did the staff have any other comments? Alderman Skinner.
I'm just frustrated that traffic concerns are always one of the high complaints that we get from citizens. And if we're going to do something about traffic but use less money to do it, Hillsborough is an excellent example where we couldn't get state funding to do a project that the city had to step in and do because the public demanded it.
So, some of us are smiling
Yeah.
because we remember the state did agree to do this at least 2 times before, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
That's the frustration of this, that we're kind of behind the 8 ball as far as the public's concerned. And yes, we have to weigh our developments, but again, if they add to the traffic problem because of the growth that they provide, isn't that what this road impact is about? So,
I call the question.
okay, I'm through.
Can we ignore your motion since he's through, and we'll just go ahead and vote on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Go ahead and support the
All right,
amendment.
raise your hands.
Okay.
We have 2 for, all against, 4 against. The amendment is defeated. Then we'll go to the first motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there any opposition? None. Passes unanimously. Next is number 12. Consideration of Resolution 2011-16, a resolution to amend the Franklin City Charter, Article 4, Part 1, Subpart 1, Section 5, regarding the office of Vice Mayor and vacancies in office. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposition? None. Passes unanimously. Number 13, consideration of resolution 2011-17, a resolution to amend the Franklin City Charter to delete Article 2, Part 1, Subpart 2, Section 1, Subsection 35, relative to the construction and repair of sidewalks by abutting owners. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Passes unanimously. Number 14, consideration of resolution 2011-18, a resolution adopting and authorizing the City of Franklin drought management plan submittal to TDEC. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
That would be the new one here?
Yes. Yes, this is the amended one that Mr. Hilty, and he's here. Let's see, we have a proper motion, proper second. Mr. Hilty.
If you'd like for me to comment on it, excuse me, Alderman Peterson had requested some clarification. We had worked through some points of clarification in sections 4.3 and 5.3 provided to the board this morning, and hopefully had the opportunity to review, and if you have any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Sure.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposition? Passes unanimously. Next is a consideration of change order number 2 with W.L. Haley for time extension for the Simmons Ridge Interceptor Sanitary Sewer Project. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposition? See none. Next is number 16, consideration of city purchase of the property located at 331 Fifth Avenue North in the amount of $300,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There is a proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a proper second. Discussion.
I have some concerns. At the last meeting of the CIP committee, on the agenda was an item that I requested to look at this area overall instead of kind of piecemeal with a one piece of property at the time, because since we made our original recommendations, what was this be, like a year and a half ago, to purchase some pieces of property as a whole. For most of these properties, we would just be purchasing the right-of-way. And at the meeting the other night, it was stated what would be the cost of the right-of-way only.
For this particular tract, it was going to be, right-of-way and easements would be about $34,500.
What was it?
34.5.
34.5.
If we purchased right-of-way as we had originally planned. There are 2 or 3 things that I already had that I wanted to bring up, because that area now is so different from what it was a year ago, with so many pieces of property that are vacant and or for rent. And I thought that it probably does need to be looked at as a whole, to see what changes, or if any, we would want to make on our plans for that area.
Second point.
And the another one is that whenever we received information about the appraisal, I did request that we look at the Williamson County Assessor's Office appraisal on this, and as of October the 1st, that had, which it had an appraisal for $330,000 for 2 years, now it's down to $241,100. I'm assuming, and would I be correct to say that the property owner requested lowering of the appraisal for tax purposes? Because I do not think that would have been taken care of in the general reappraisal that is coming, that's coming up in April.
Are you speaking with knowledge to that, or are you just...
I'm reading this from what Mr. Truill sent me,
Okay.
that it says $241,100. Right. As opposed to the $330,000.
I'm referring to the property.
I'm asking, I'm saying,
I don't
I said,
know.
would I be correct to assume this? I don't know, because,
Russ.
yeah.
Mr. Mayor, it was widely documented that the assessors were pretty aggressive about going out and identifying flood-damaged
Okay.
properties and proactively doing some reductions. I don't know that that's the case, but I know I read of several in the newspaper that were done that way. So it might not have been the owner
Okay.
that precipitated that.
Okay. That's why I was asking, would I be correct to assume that?
No, are you done? I'm sorry.
Well, and the other thing, as I say, is that was not in the original plans, and the question I have is, I suppose, what would we do with this piece of property, not considering the entire area? Because I think that the entire area needs to be looked at.
Can you answer that, Mr. Parker, and then I'll recognize Alderman.
Thank you.
Right now, I couldn't say exactly what we would do with the property if we owned it all. What we have mentioned to you or spelled out to you in the memo was that it would give us a place for a trailhead. We do have plans in the future, probably long-range future, to have a trail along the Sharps Branch sanitary sewer, which goes along the creek. The other thing that we mentioned that would be a good, possibly good thing to do with a portion of the property would be to have an entrance feature into the hard bargain area, since Mount Hope Street is one of the main entrances into that area, which would give some identification for that, since we're looking at doing the streetscape elements along this road as we do Hillsborough Road. So saying that to tell you, we would probably be looking at either before or possibly even as a change order to the construction contract for Hillsborough Road, for this section of Hillsborough Road, looking at changing some of the elements of the streetscape portion of the project to enhance this property. So that's, right now, that's some of the things we were looking at. It would, but like I said, we could use it as, the main thing we were looking at is be a pretty good opportunity possibly in the future to have a location for trailhead parking for the trail when we get that built. And it could also be parking for the general area or for the Bicentennial Park if it becomes Tricentennial Park, but we'll see how that happens.
Alderman Martin is recognized.
I agree with what you're saying, but we can look at this all day. We can look at the property every single day, but until we have something in hand, I don't think it would do any good to try to plan for the future. As these properties come up, and we talk about them and study them, and the owners are here tonight, and we're glad to have you all. Old Franklin, and but I think we need to make the decisions as they come along and not just wait until we study the whole thing. I mean, we've got the picture. We've got a map of the whole area, so we can look at the map or we can look at whatever. But as these places become available, I think we need to look at them and decide. And you've told us plans. I mean, they're good plans you've mentioned. So I would be in favor of this.
Alderman Skinner.
What is the percentage of this property that's in floodplain?
Percentage in floodplain?
All of it.
I think
All?
I believe they stated in the appraisal that
It is all in floodplain, and there's a pretty good amount of floodway.
it says they would estimate 2/3 of it is in the floodway, and the other third is in the floodplain.
So,
And the appraisal was 241?
Well, this is for tax assessors.
Excuse me.
The appraisals that we had commissioned was 310.
Alderman Barnhill.
Here's kind of the bottom line on this as it was on the other. You've got an appraisal at 310, you've got an offer at 300, they accepted you got on the tax rolls at $241,000. That does not include any cost of tearing down the building as it exists. I notice it does include, I assume, any digging up of the underground
done that.
tanks and
They've done that.
that, they've already dug
They've
those
done
up.
We have a certificate from the state
So-
that the owner provided to us that has been taken care of, and it has passed state inspection.
So we're being asked to give $300,000 for a piece of property that on the tax rolls is $241,000. Prior to the flood, it was $330-something thousand, but I guess it was a business at that particular time. It's no longer a business now. And whatever cost that we have to tear down, remove, whatever it is, that building, so it's not just $300,000 that we're being asked to give, it's also the amount of that cleanup, and it's the amount that we take off of the tax roll when we buy that piece of property ourselves. So it is more than $300,000 when we get ready to make the offer of $300,000. We want to point that out. I'm not going to be able, I don't think I'm going to be able to support the $300,000 amount.
Alderman Bransford.
I concur with Alderman Barnhill. I have a hard time paying $300,000 for property that's in a floodplain that I just can't justify that.
Any other comments? We're ready to vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Fails 5-1. One against and 5, was 1 for and 5 against. Next is number 17, consideration of rejection of bids received for the construction contract for the pedestrian signal at Carruthers Parkway and Baker Bridge Road project to Stansel Electric Company in the amount of $87,827,000. Is there a motion? This is a rejection.
Move to
Move that
reject.
we
I
reject.
move to reject.
Second.
Well, which option? Reject number
Reject.
2 or reject number 3? There's 2 rejections.
I think
Rejection
number
of
3.
bids.
Is it number
Okay,
3?
we need to be specific on that.
Would you
Okay.
clarify that, Mr. Parker?
Excuse me?
It's option number 3.
We're rejecting the bid, and we'll be looking at it again. Right now, it's just reject the bid.
So I
Well,
guess
you've
I'm
got two
recommending
rejections
option
on
number
Mr.
3,
Parker.
rejecting
All
the
options.
The options there, though, is we can look at, the staff would take care of looking at what we do. If anything needs to come back to you, we will.
Do you want, yeah?
So is that enough clarification?
2 rejections.
It's
Reject all
option
options.
number
Just
3.
Yeah, that's what I said. There are 2 rejections. Number 2 and number 3 were a little different. So which rejection are you
Number 3,
doing?
excuse me,
We'll go back to
option
who
number
made the
3.
motion. Which one?
I
is
guess
it?
number 3, number 3.
Okay.
All
That
right,
is
you
the
approve of the
staff
second?
recommendation.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I wanna know which one.
Opposed?
Vote
Hear
no.
none. Did you vote no?
No, I just wanted to know which one I was voting on.
Next is number 21, consideration of professional services agreement with CDM for the construction administration services for the Jackson Lake dredging project in the amount not to exceed $63,000. Is there a motion?
So, move for approval.
Second.
Proper motion, proper second. Is there any discussion?
The reason I pulled this from the consent agenda is not particularly this thing, but it seems like we're getting back into the habit. We continually hire out the management of these things. Back a couple of weeks ago, we had something that, very similar situation up on the road up off of Mallory, that, you know, that the part of the management is they're supposed to watch out for the city's best interest, but that had already occurred, and the city went into $180,000 additional dollars because of some relocation of water mains and pipes. So I want staff to look into what would it take for us to hire an additional person to be in charge of some of these things. You know, dredging out a lake and putting in a box culvert surely cannot be that time-consuming that we have to add another 63,000 to the cost of this project. It is very frustrating. for us to, not always is it just the cost of the project, then it's the cost of these additional services that we're having to pay for.
Alderman Berger.
I'm glad you're not going to try to talk us out of this one, because I fought Alderman Phillips on this in 2006, just trying to get this on the list. And this is really needed over there. And but I don't object to us looking in-house to see about that. But, Mr. Parker, isn't this quite an extensive process where we would need expertise in dredging these lakes? Because I remember when we did Liberty Hills area, that was quite extensive.
Well, we have a lot of environmental concerns we have to watch out for. It is a process that nobody in the city staff has any experience with. It's different than what we did at Liberty Hills Lake.
Yeah.
And this is a not to exceed. This is something that we feel is a worst-case scenario. It will be charged on an hourly basis of the consultant, and it is figured as a worst case. We don't think it's going to cost this much, but it's just, it's staff time otherwise, but there is some expertise in this that we just do not have on staff right now.
Could I ask how it differs from Liberty Hill, other than maybe installing the box
Excuse me?
culvert? How does it differ from the dredging at Liberty Lake?
Well, at Liberty Lake, you took the sediment out and put it up on the bank and let it dry. Here, there's going to be using vacuuming and socks and checking those things and how they're laid out, et cetera. It is a different type system. There is a very small amount of layout, so we had to go to a more extensive and expensive way to do it. So it's different.
How big a project is this? The project itself is?
It's $1 million.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I forgot, you did it last meeting. It's $1.7 million or something?
That's what I was going to say.
$1.4 million? Oh, okay, $1.4 million.
All right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, passes unanimously. Next is number 25. Mr. Parker had asked us to pull that one. Consideration of TDOT utility relocation contract for water for the McHatcher Parkway Northeast Quadrant widening project from State Route 96 to State Route 6.
I'm sorry, I asked for this to be pulled because we need to make the motion to approve it contingent upon staff's approval of the language. We're still working with TDOT on that language, and due to vacations, things, that hasn't happened, but we need to have that motion made to where it's contingent upon staff approval of the language.
Is there a motion with the stipulation that it be approved by staff before it goes forward?
So moved.
Second.
Appropriate motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Fine, correct. I'm looking for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, staff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.